Hey, good Tuesday evening, folks. It is August 13th, 2024. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis, and today's tropical update focused on Tropical Storm Ernesto that as of this hour is stronger and bringing impacts to the U.S. and British Virgin Islands as well as Puerto Rico. It is likely to become our third hurricane of the 2024 season, likely maxing out at Category 2, maybe a little bit stronger and overperforming. That's been the trend so far this season. It is, however, forecast to remain well to the east and offshore of the U.S. East Coast, but it will impact folks, especially out in Bermuda, as it gets to its peak intensity by this weekend, up to a Category 2 hurricane, if not greater. Here's satellite imagery as of this hour, the 8 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We are now up to 65-mile-per-hour winds. Yesterday when we talked, it was only at 40-mile-per-hour winds, so it is strengthening. Pressure is dropping, gusts up to 70 miles per hour. And as we look at it on infrared satellite imagery here, the brighter colors of yellows, or excuse me, of whites popping on up here, colder cloud tops, meaning the convection or thunderstorm activity is growing stronger. It's higher in the sky, colder cloud tops indicated here. And notice there are two lobes, north and south, and that is an indicator that it is starting to get its act together, organizing and deepening, and likely well on its way to becoming a hurricane here as it is impacting the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, as well as Puerto Rico. As we throw radar on here, we can already see that some bands are moving over the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Some of the outer bands here moving off towards the west over Puerto Rico. Notice some drier air here, so most of the moisture is to the south and to the east of the center of circulation with Ernesto at this time, moving on a northwest trajectory at this time. It has also slowed down a little bit since we talked yesterday, only moving at around 18 miles per hour now. Tropical storm warnings have been dropped off to the south and east. However, to the west, they are up for Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands. That's for tropical storm conditions that are being felt now and will likely continue to be so for the next 12 hours or so before it moves to the north. Here's the track on it, moving to the north, strengthening to a Category 1 storm, and then eventually up to a Category 2. Center of this cone moves right over Bermuda, which is right here by Saturday afternoon as a 105-mile-per-hour Category 2 storm. That's the National Hurricane Center's track here. It could move farther to the west, or it could move farther to the east, or it could even be stronger than what it is forecast to be. Something I want to drive home, though, is how far to the east and offshore it is of the U.S. East Coast. So direct impacts, unlikely. Indirect impacts a little more likely. We're talking big swells, rip current risk for all the beaches along the eastern seaboard later this week through the weekend and into early next week as well. Now, models do take this pretty much on that same trajectory you saw there from the cone, from the National Hurricane Center to the northwest, to the north, and then begins to recurve out to sea as the Bermuda high pressure sitting over the middle Atlantic weakens and pushes farther to the east, allowing it to build to the north and eventually recurve out to sea here. But as you look farther out in time, there is still considerable spread west to east, but all of the computer models here, each line is a different computer model, does keep it east and offshore and eventually potentially impacting Nova Scotia and the Canadian Maritimes as we get into the middle parts of next week. European compare with American. Here's the GFS right now. European lagging a little bit, but getting out towards Saturday morning, we've got the GFS just south of Bermuda, the European racing off to the north and east of Bermuda. Both are intense hurricanes at this point, and then they move quickly to the north. GFS is a little farther to the west, potentially impacting Nova Scotia. European keeps it farther to the east and over the open Atlantic before moving up into Canadian Maritimes later in the week. All right, that's the latest on Ernesto. You can find me on social media if you have any questions. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. We'll see you again tomorrow.